Not much of an introduction is needed for our mayor, Arthur Vigeant. I did think it was interesting when he talks about kind of learning skills and making sure you were always educating yourself forward to learn more skills. It's one of the things I had found was that Quinsigamond, it said, Quinsigamond Community College comes into it. They identify the skills needed in the workforce and cater programs to meet those needs. Mr. Vigeant took courses for about a year at QCC before transferring to the University of Lowell and then finishing his bachelor's degree at Worcester State University. Without question, I would recommend it to others today. The program lines you up to transfer to other schools, and people can take courses and gain specific career skills. So always learning, I think, is what puts him as a standout to mayors in the state and around the region. And he's always open to new ideas. He's always open to new learnings. And I don't think we could have gotten through the pandemic without Mayor Vigeant and his guidance. So welcome, Mayor Arthur Vigeant.
Emily, thank you very much. Mark, that's what's supposed to happen in the council when I walk in. Talk to the rest of them. I don't seem to understand. I had no respect down there anymore. But
you're gonna go like this.
So, no, thank you very much for inviting me back. And I took a look, and we did a Zoom thing back in 2020, but it's been a couple of years since we've been back here. And I know you've bounced between a couple places since then. And I do want to start with a quick update on COVID. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. We'll go through a few things, then I'll open it up for any questions you have. But we're down to about 50 cases right now, citywide. Our health department, our Board of Health, our health agent, John Garside, the Marlborough Hospital, Bouvier's Pharmacy. I mean, everyone's been stepping up to the plate for us. Marlborough Hospital's been doing the Stop the Spread for a couple of years now. It's dwindled down to just a few dozen a day, so eventually they're probably going to be moving back to the hospital, but right now they're still down at Stop the Spread at the skating rink. And they did kind of squash the hours a little bit to try to stay busy, but they've been huge through this whole thing for us. We've been doing vaccine clinics. We started with the testing. We had testing all over the city. We did vaccine clinics throughout the city. We're still doing vaccine clinics. So if you know anyone that needs a vaccine that hasn't figured out where to go, most of the pharmacies will do it. But we are doing a clinic once a week, and I'm not sure exactly when it is. It's only like 3 hours a week, but we are still getting some out there. The MEDC started a program with our small businesses to try to get them some, PPP help in getting that loan, as well as providing some masks and some sanitizer and everything else. We did 33 small business loans. They weren't loans; they were actually grants that were provided to 33 of our different small businesses. We gave out about $133,000, so that was great. The superintendent and his team over at the schools have done a phenomenal job of trying to keep the kids educated over the last couple of years. I mean, they really have, first last year with all the virtual, it was a little bit difficult. This year, we've done everything to try to keep the kids in school. And I know Tom and Mark are going through the same things in their schools. Everyone's been working together to try to keep all our kids educated. So I can't thank all our educators enough for what they've done. When you heard all the stories about teachers and administrators in Boston really not cooperating and not really more interested, I think, in themselves than in the kids, we had just the opposite here. Mike Bergeron worked with the different unions. We had a number of different unions. We have 7, I believe, in the schools, but worked with all of them. Came up with some kind of compromise, and we all got to work and just educating the kids. So it was really, really great, and I can't thank all of you enough. We didn't have issues in the city with people really complaining a lot or anything else. The businesses stood up. The residents stuck it out like everyone else. We all went through this together, and I appreciate all the help that all of you done throughout the city to help us through this. So in City Hall, we have a lot of new faces in different positions, different department heads. A lot of the new clerks we have in the building. It's great to get some new young blood in there, some new ideas. So that's been working well. I feel really, really old in the building now because we got a lot of new people. But we're getting there. Someday I'm going to learn how to use that damn computer too. They spend more time in my office. I'm going to go back over the last year and a half only because we still continue to move forward with things that we talked about before, but we opened our new school back in September 2020. That came in on time and over $10 million under budget. With some communities that are trying to build a Taj Mahal, it was my goal to pull one of their schools off the shelf. They have schools already designed, and then they customize it to your community. And my feeling was if we can save some of those design costs, but we ended up over $10 million under budget, opened up on time for about 650 students, and I believe we announced Tuesday night that we have over 700 in there now. So we are still busting at the seams, even with the new school. It was as large as we could go, but it's a lot better than being in the hallways and things like we were a while back. And hopefully, we kind of peaked out with all the new kids. We actually received a AAA bond rating when we went back out to borrow last year. They gave us a AAA bond rating again, and it's just something that I know that for me it's a personal thing. I've been working at it for a long time, and when we achieved that a few years ago, it was great, and now we have to maintain it, and we did last year when we went out for some borrowing. Knowing it was going to be a tough year, with the cooperation of the City Council, and I thank Mark and his colleagues for working through with us, taking a lot of things with a handshake and a wink. I mean, it really was one of those things. They really pushed a lot of things through quickly because we needed it, and we actually passed a zero increase in our budget last year, trying to keep the costs down because we had no idea what to expect with the year coming up. So I sent out a zero increase in the budget. The council went through it. They blessed it. Next time we got to bring you. Do it right if they're going to bless it. So, but we're working on that now. We're actually coming in on the budget. We're making some transfers with the next meeting. So, again, staying on the department heads to stay within their budgets. We're doing our senior housing project over on Pleasant Street. That's been going for a couple of years now. It's about a $7 million project for 42 units. They're about half done. When you're working with DHCD, things don't go too quick. So it's been frustrating, but, it was really important to get these units renovated. I was hoping that we were going to be able to raise the whole complex and go up another floor and add some units, but that's a different pot of money. And DHCD said, you can't use what we're giving you to do that. Like, well, it doesn't matter. If it's making it more efficient and I can add more units. No, different part of money. You've got to go through the process a different way. Like, okay. So we're doing what we can with it. Energy efficiency, it's been, it's one of those things we don't tout enough in the city, that we've done a lot of things, and we're probably one of the greenest communities in the state. We have a municipal aggregation contract right now that runs through January 2024 that we're charging about 9 cents kilowatt, megawatt, some watts. And compared to right now, National Grids, I think at either 12 or 14 cents. I think they're at 14 cents. So, with the help of Mike Ossing, obviously he was in the industry. We had an opportunity to grab some really cheap power. It was about what people were paying then, but we we jumped on it, so we're way under right now, saving the electric payers. We saved them well over $1 million in the last couple of years, and it's going to be much more after this winter because the rates are going up for them. Ours are locked in for another almost 2 years. So we're really excited about that. The best part about that is that contract we signed, it's 100% green. So in addition to having this cheap power, it's all green. So we changed all the street lights out, 2,711 street lights, saving about $80,000 a year in our power costs for the city. We've been buying electric vehicles, putting in charging stations in a few different locations. We put them in our new parking lot on Bolton Street. We have them in the parking garage. We have them down the DPW. We have them on the side of the Walker Building. So we'll be adding to that program moving forward. And then we've also bought some open space, again, with the help of the council. They approved the purchase of 33 acres down at the O'Donnell Farm, down at the Callahan State Park line down there at the Framingham line. So we're trying to stay on top of it in addition to doing all the smaller things that we do. The new library, so if you've driven by, you see it's torn apart, and what's there is going to be the old structure that's staying, and then we're going to be building around it. So they've been working pretty much right through so far because they can't. Because of the winter we've been having, contractors want to stay there and keep working. But council appropriated $13 million. The state's giving us about $10 million. And we have a group that's out trying to raise funds for the other $2.5 million that's going to come, that's going to be needed to actually furnish the facility once it's completed. But again, staying on time, staying on budget, and that's what's important. Coming up this year, like we did last year, we got the Food Truck Festival coming in. It was a huge hit last year. We're looking forward to doing it again this year. Couple things to look for in the coming year. I'm going to be going down in the next couple of weeks to the council to ask for a bunch of money. A bunch of money. Mark, a bunch of money. Probably when I first started about 10 years ago, we talked about doing a walking trail around Lake Williams, and we got bogged down with DEP and DOT, and they didn't want to do the same thing, and we finally ended up doing a walking trail for about half of it on the land side, behind the courthouse and behind the ball fields. We're going to take a run at that now. I think now is a good time to go back down there. We want to do the entire perimeter of Lake Williams. So we're excited about that. I think DPW is already working on it. We got to get some sign-offs, but that's going to be included. Bobby Butler, many of you know him from his hockey days, but he came and approached me just before COVID hit about doing a deck hockey facility in the city. We haven't had one. They have one over in Hudson, and I guess, it's well used. So my feeling was, let's go for it. So we're working on a couple of different locations to get that going this year. We're working with the Bruins alumni on trying to help us out with a couple things with it. Question is whether we'll have refrigeration or not. It goes from $500,000 for a deck hockey facility to $3 million if I want ice on it. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do something in between that won't cost us a fortune. Dave, you got to go to the bathroom or anything? So moving forward on the fire station. Council has a transfer, and we're hoping we move that along. We wanted to wait till if and when any new councilors were involved to, be able to work together on it and try to come up with some good solution where we can get a facility down there. We need something on the west side of town. This was identified by the committee that was put together of public safety people. It was all public safety people except for Christian Dumas, who wanted one representative from the city council. So he got on that. So that's coming up. We also received recently a $3 million MassWorks grant for the downtown area. So we're going to use some of it from Main Street we're working on designs now, but I really want to put a lot of it back in the Weed Street area. Let's see what we can do to make that usable and walkable, and things like that. So we're working on where we can spend it without wasting the money. I don't want to waste the money, but it was one of those surprises that Lieutenant Governor called, and I said, I'll walk around any way you want if you're leaving a check here. So we started on Lincoln Street because she wanted to see what we did with the last one she gave us. So she was pretty impressed, that we had it 3/4 done, and now we're down to just doing the lights. So it's in good shape. And she said, what about, she said, you mentioned Main Street. I said, let's take a walk. So we walked down Main Street from up there, and it's great to have her here for about 15 minutes and ask for more and more and more. Just a couple reminders. We have C-Click Fix on our website. Use it. It's an app. If you have an issue with the street lights out, obviously there's potholes everywhere. They're inundated with them, but use that app because it goes right to the departments where the issue is. They act on it. We follow up on it. If they don't follow up on it, call my office, and I can get on it from there. And then boards and commissions. I mean, we're always looking for people for our boards and commissions. If you're interested in something or interested in something particular, give my office a call. We're always looking for some new blood and always turn over in some of the different boards. So if there's an opportunity, we want to use the skills you have to move forward on those and get some new people. So with that, now I'll open it up for any questions. Who's first? Go ahead, Sam.
So I don't know if you know, it's a totally random question, but as you're going by Lake Williams,
Yep.
and you would take a right to go to the courthouse, I think they moved the row gazebo.
Yep.
Is that city-owned land?
Yes.
Okay, so we should be thinking about maybe some sort of a contemplation Rotary Park down there that we might think about. We're looking for a big benefactor for
You can pay for the whole walking trail if you want. It's $3 million. What's that? It's going to go around the whole thing. So we're going to loop it around. We're trying to figure out. I know when I was working with Ron LaFreni on it, when I first started, he was talking about going on the outside on the Route 20, right on the road, and push the road back a little. I'm looking to come on the inside with a boardwalk on. So we causes a few more permits. Yep. You give me a number, I'll spend it.
Are you going to do a man's charity ball this year?
I think they're going to push it off till next spring. We were kind of disappointed. I lost. So we had meetings. I'm trying to think. They were having meetings regularly, and I think some of you were involved. And it was Tuesday morning, and they said, there's a couple that are getting nervous. They don't want you to have it. So I said, were you guys all on board? We're all on board. And Wednesday they came in, and I had my assistant, and I had Meredith, who was kind of heading up the thing, and Bob Cage, and said, we got a problem. I said, what's the problem? None of the restaurants are going to play. And it was because all the restaurants were dropping out because, of staff and issues and everything else. So that's when we called it. It was 3 days before we were supposed to have it. So there was just so much work that was put into it. But we said, you know what? I don't want to take the chance. We had a date for this year. And I said, I just don't want to take the chance and do it again. You put all this effort into it. So we talked about doing it in the fall. But it wasn't working out. So I said, if we put it off and do it in an off year, who cares? As long as they have a good event. I just got to try to figure out how I can make it through the next year. Because obviously we've been spending a lot of that charity money more than we normally would have. But, to be very honest with you, with the businesses in the city, you send out one letter and the things fall up. So it's because of the efforts of all of you guys that it works. Not this year.
You needed the funds to.
Yeah,
you
no.
needed a field to.
We'll end up doing a lot.
Okay.
What else? Sam, what do you got? Oh, you did one. Doctor.
I know this is not high on the list of anybody's priorities, but it's something that I'm sure Mark Vital is interested in. Is there a possibility that you could ever have a dog park here in the city? You know, and I think
Mark Vital, you sure? I hear it from Mark Oram all the time. So, and Christian Dumas just came up and asked. So, the answer is yes. The answer is that's going to be part of the money going down. We're working on, again, a location, but that's going to be part of my request in 2 weeks to the council. But I think DPW has some property identified. I said I want to make it very simple. I want a fence, and I want a couple buckets. If they take care of it, great. If they don't, I take the fence down and pull the sign down and call it a day. I've heard so many horror stories from other communities. I've put it off for 10 years. And it looks like I'm going to get caught right now. So I'm going to put it down with that group. Yep.
When will the homeowners and local real estate agents be able to schedule the smoke and carbon monoxide inspection online?
Oh.
Online and pay for that online instead of a certified check.
You know what? I'm not sure. I think it's part of we're buying a new software package for the city, for the building department, that's going to kind of spread out to the fire department, the health department, the DPW. So we're going to try to modernize the whole thing and do online permits, which we don't have the capabilities to do now. So they're working on that. We're probably, I want to say like 3/4 of the way through. So we're moving along, but I'm going to find out if fire is included in there.
And final water and sewer meetings.
Okay, I'll find out. Yep. Yep.
Sure, so long as you're happy to take the class, pickleball keeps growing.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that Hudson and Westboro and almost every other town now has courts, the demand still outsees the supply. So if there's any opportunity for another either half a dozen courts at Ward Park or perhaps a different facility, we'd be interested in.
Be careful how you answer, you could find yourself in a pickle.
No, I know it's, and I haven't looked to see if there's something like in between permanent, and what you're doing now, because there's so many people using it. Be good to do something like in between, rather than start from scratch and spend $4 million. See if we can do something where it's a little more permanent than it is, but not only facility. But
one of the biggest issues in the town, in my opinion, is the price of real estate, whether they're renting or owning, and the ability, particularly of young professionals, that grew up in our town, being able to buy in our town. Right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a moratorium on subsidized housing. Is that true?
no,
Or a hold on it of some sort?
no, I went through. We've done it twice in the last few years, only because it was like we had all these complexes looking to come into town. So I did it a few years ago. The council jumped on board. This past year I did it. It went on for about 6 months. I asked for an extension. I think I got a 3-month extension. Then the council didn't want to do another extension. But feeling being that they can control the number that they approve, but I could send down, without exaggeration, I could send down about 2,500 units next year. There's that many calls we get about apartment complexes because there's a huge demand. I can't get them to build houses, and I can't get them to do condos. They want an apartment, and they're getting a fortune for them. I mean, they're getting Some of them are going for as high as $3,000 a month for a two-bedroom. So, and you guys know better than I do. So, but it was the glut of it. I said, you got to let the market absorb. So we got to stagger them out a little bit, and we've been able to do that. But we still have, a few hundred down at the council right now. We have a few hundred being built down on Cimarano Drive, and they're not going to be cheap. And that's why that's the other thing the council is working on is affordable. Well, affordable based on the guidelines we have from the state. I think our two bedrooms right now are about $1,800 a month for the affordable. So even though they say, hey, we want some affordable units, it's not really affordable. So we end up with a two-family with three families living in it, and they're dividing up small bedrooms into smaller bedrooms to put more kids in it. The other night at the school committee, we mentioned it. We have 8.6% increase in our school population since October. So October 1st, because they sent down another SOI to send to Boston to get in the queue for another school. I said, that's great. Where are we going to put it, and what are you going to do with it? So I'm not there yet. I need more information, but the school committee jumped on board and sent it down my way and sent it down the council's way. But so we're finding that a lot of that population, it's not the apartments we're building. When we looked into it, Avalon has 300 apartments up there. They had 11 kids in the entire complex. It's not them.
Everybody has a dog, that's why.
And then I was behind in front of one of the buses that stopped on House Street the other day. House Street. I mean, it's a little congested, but there's only so many houses there. They emptied a bus on House Street. Yeah. No, I was on House Street. But, I mean, you could go in any of those small areas. The only place that's worse is Hosmer Street. You catch that at bus time, put it in park, and have a coffee. You could be sitting there for 15 minutes because you got two buses coming from both directions. So if you catch it at the right time, one bus, then the next bus, then the next bus, then the next bus, and they fill them and empty them. I mean, you're there for a while. In fact, I worked with the No, it's still there. So yeah, it's. I mean, the housing is market driven. I mean, there's not. We're and the sad, good and the bad part is we're an affordable community compared to most. As far as the young professionals that are coming here and can't afford the housing, I argue with them a little bit sometimes because they'd rather go out on the other side of Worcester and pay. Now it's $500,000 for a small colonial, than buy one here. Maybe not quite what they want, but now they got to drive it. An hour a day, an hour and 15 minutes a day. So it's really, we've got a great community and people want to be here, but that means prices go. So if these guys stop putting prices on that like that, then yeah.
Any question, has there been any talk or planning of maybe getting a down payment assistance program for first-time homebuyers here in Marlborough?
We've talked about it. The CDA is doing some loan programs, but it's tough to get those in place. I'm trying to do a loan program right now for betterments, for the sewer hookups, because now it's a question around the city. So I'm trying to get a loan pool together, and I'm causing chaos in different departments. Like, we can't do this. It's like, well, we have to do it. We got to figure out how to do it. So I'm working with the CDA. Is it better to be there? Is it better to be on the city side? How are we going to get payments? Do we just put it on the tax bills? But I got to get this in place with the ordinance that was put in. The difference between the old ordinance and the new ordinance is simply the fact we're going to start enforcing it. It's actually more lenient than the old ordinance, a lot more lenient than the old ordinance. For anyone that doesn't know, we had an ordinance on the books to hook up the sewers. Anyone that has sewer in front of their house is required to hook up within, I think it was 90 days. So we weren't enforcing it. And I've talked to counselors and said, we can't keep approving sewer projects. I have over $25 million down in the Sudbury Street area that's been approved over a number of years, starting with, I think Natalie Lashman started the questions about Sudbury Street sewer because our septic systems are blowing up and we can't get a new septic system. So we started the process. And it was always, give us $1 million or $2 million a year so we can get it done. Well, here we are 25 years later. We're still doing a couple $1 million a year. I believe I'm down to 2 streets down there. So we're trying, because now the ordinance says, all right, if you have a sewer in front of your house, you only have to hook up if you sell or if you have a failure or there's a couple criteria. If you have a new sewer coming through, you have 180 days to hook up, period. So, and the reason is, we got to bring the revenue in to pay for the sewer. No special. No. And we had that discussion. The problem was, well, Jesus, I didn't have to pay for mine. You didn't have to pay for yours, and now they got to pay for theirs. So we decided not to do that, but we did say we're going to come up with something we're all going to agree we're going to enforce. If there's a reason for it, the engineer can waive it. Yeah. No, and the problem is, so all of Sudbury Street, I don't know, how long is that? Mile and a half, 2 miles? Yeah. I have 11 people that hooked up on the entire street. So I can't, and the problem is, I can't just say, forget about it, we're not going to do it, because I got one on Turner Ridge that says, my system has failed, I keep repairing it, I can't keep spending money repairing it, so we're down to Turner Ridge and Stonegate. I think those are the only 2 left. But,
And when you have it cleaned, my guy always says, it's really in good shape.
Yep.
Not broke, don't fix it.
yeah. No, and I have one.
And my kids are saying, when the time comes, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it, Mom.
And your house is set back.
But I got the letter the other day about
Yeah.
the blue regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's not public sewer in front of your home.
Right.
And you have if your system.
Yep.
Fails and maybe if the D-box or back will fail,
Yep.
you gotta replace it.
Yep.
Then that will.
Fix it. It's only if a new sewer, after the ordinance was put in, if we do a new sewer in front of your house, that's when it kicks in. Or if there's one in front of your house and it's not a new one, say it's an old one, you got a good system that works, then it triggers if you sell your house or you do a certain number of improvements or your system fails. There's 3 or 4 criteria that forces people on there because I got to pay for these sewer costs.
Well, in Hudson, when they did it on our street for Rolling Lane, 'cause a lot of the things in Rolling Lane failed and Warren River, they sent us a bill for it. We still have an operating septic, but we had to pay for the portion of it on the street, and then when we hook up with it.
Yeah, that's the betterment that Sim was talking about. We just, as a city leaders, we felt like it was kind of almost unfair to start doing that because we have over 80% of the city sewer. So we're just whacking the people that haven't been. So, yep.
Question. So we have a number of bodies of water around here. I know there's milfoil issues over here.
Yep.
Has the city ever done a comprehensive vegetative analysis of the entire bodies of water?
I know they do on this one. We do testing every week during the summer in each of the beaches down here.
This would be a comprehensive analysis. I ask this because my company provides a free service to all governmental agencies and elements where you take our equipment, which we give you at relatively low cost, you provide the manpower, you scan the entire lake, basically driving over it, and you get comprehensive analysis of what's in the water, what's the volume like, what kinds of vegetation do you have in here. And if you look at that data year over year or more frequently if you want to do it, you can really start to see what problem areas are, where you should concentrate. And this is a service my company provides for free, and not many people know about it.
Yeah, I would call the conservation officer, Priscilla Ryder. She's the one that keeps an eye on it. And I'm going to tell her when she calls me, it's like, I don't know if I want to know what's in that pool. That's what we did with that's what we did across the street, and it cost me a fortune, and we haven't even capped it yet. All I wanted to do was put a field over there for the kids to play on.
Just the fun of things, though, isn't there an ex-mayor that's in the water up here?
We got him out, and it was way before me. I'm done?